The young and the restless spoilers unmasking the threat, the looming arrival of Aristotle Dumas in the relentless chess game of power in Genoa City. Every phone call and whispered secret holds the potential to reshape destinies. Victor Newman, ever vigilant in his pursuit of control and understanding, has long been intrigued by the enigmatic figure known as Aristotle Dumas. Yet, despite Michael's diligent efforts, nothing substantial had emerged about this elusive man, until an unexpected phone call shattered the routine of another calculated day. The call that changed everything on an otherwise ordinary afternoon. As Victor pored over files and news clippings in his study, his phone rang with an urgency that belied its routine tone. As the line connected, Victor's eyes sparkled with anticipation. He hoped this might finally shed light on the mystery that had so long occupied his thoughts. The voice on the other end, however, was not one of an unknown informant or rival schemer. Instead, it belonged to Paul Williams, the esteemed police officer of Genoa City and, above all, one of Victor's most trusted confidants. Paul's call was not a friendly check-in or a simple inquiry about health. No, his tone was grave, filled with a sense of impending danger that immediately put Victor on high alert. Though Victor managed a wry smile, concealing a flicker of relief at hearing from his dear friend, the conversation quickly took on a much darker tone as Paul began to divulge secrets that would shake even the steely resolve of Victor Newman. Paul Williams' dire warning. As the conversation unfolded, Paul revealed that he possessed critical information about the man who now loomed as a direct threat to Victor's life, Aristotle Dumas. Though Paul was physically unable to return to Genoa City, his deep-rooted connections within the force and his intimate knowledge of the undercurrents in the city allowed him to stay abreast of every significant development. With a measured and somber tone, he began to disclose 3 explosive secrets about Aristotle Dumas, secrets that would undoubtedly send shivers down Victor's spine. A hidden agenda beyond revenge. Paul's first secret revealed that Aristotle Dumas's motives were far more complex than a mere personal vendetta against Victor. While many assumed that Dumas was driven by a desire for bloodshed, the truth was that his plans involved a labyrinth of hidden objectives. There were whispers that Aristotle was orchestrating a scheme that extended beyond simple revenge, a plot that aimed to upend long-standing alliances and dismantle the very foundations of power in Genoa City. This revelation forced Victor to reevaluate every interaction he had ever had with Dumas, pondering whether the threat he faced was a singular, personal grudge or part of a broader, more insidious conspiracy. A connection to darker forces. The second secret that Paul confided was perhaps the most unsettling. Aristotle Dumas was not acting in isolation. He was linked to a network of dangerous individuals whose influence reached deep into the criminal underbelly of the city. These shadowy figures were known for their ruthless methods and had long been rumored to be involved in a series of covert operations aimed at destabilizing powerful families. For Victor, who had always prided himself on being several steps ahead of his rivals, the notion that Dumas was backed by such formidable forces was a chilling reminder that the game had just become exponentially more dangerous. An imminent arrival and uncertain intentions. Finally, Paul warned that Aristotle Dumas's arrival in Genoa City was imminent. More than that, he hinted that Dumas might have orders or motivations that would soon compel him to make a dramatic move against Victor Newman. The details were scarce, but one fact was clear: Dumas's intentions could not be easily deciphered. The possibility that he might one day attempt to kill Victor, or that his true enemy lay hidden behind layers of deception, left a lingering question that Paul deliberately left unanswered. What does he truly want? Paul had asked in a low, almost fearful tone. Does he really intend to end your life, or is there someone else pulling the strings behind him? A moment of brief respite. Despite the gravity of Paul's revelations, the conversation managed to shift the atmosphere ever so slightly. Victor's initial apprehension gave way to a cold, calculating resolve. In a rare moment of levity mixed with determination, he allowed himself a small, knowing smile. The tension in his voice softened just enough for a brief interlude of camaraderie, as if the shared history with Paul provided a temporary shield against the impending storm. Victor's mind raced with questions. What exactly was Aristotle Dumas planning? Could this mysterious figure be manipulated, or even understood, before it was too late? And most crucially, did Dumas truly intend to kill him, or was there a more elaborate agenda at play? These were questions that Victor knew he had to answer soon, if he was to protect his empire, his legacy, and ultimately, his very life. The man behind the mask. As the conversation with Paul drew to a close, Victor found himself reflecting on the enigmatic figure of Aristotle Dumas. A man who had managed to remain a ghost in the shadows, Dumas was now emerging as a specter of uncertainty and peril. His reputation was shrouded in half-truths and whispered rumors, yet what Paul had revealed added a new dimension to the threat. Victor could almost see the outline of a man whose motives were as layered and unpredictable as the schemes he was rumored to weave. The thought of Dumas's impending arrival filled Victor with a mix of dread and determination. He resolved to delve deeper into every scrap of information, every shadow of rumor, and every whispered secret related to Dumas. With Paul's warnings echoing in his ears, Victor knew that the time for complacency was over. The game was evolving, and so must he. He needed to understand the true nature of his adversary, whether to exploit it or to neutralize the threat before it could manifest into irreversible damage. What lies ahead? In the days that followed that fateful call, Victor prepared for the inevitable confrontation. He intensified his inquiries, re-examined old intelligence, and set new plans into motion. Each step was calculated, every move deliberate, as he sought to untangle the web of deceit surrounding Aristotle Dumas. The looming question remained, was Dumas an instrument of vengeance, a pawn of darker forces, or a mastermind with an agenda that defied simple explanation? And, most ominously, was his intent truly to kill Victor, or was there a deeper enemy hidden behind the veneer of hostility? For now, the answers remained elusive, a tantalizing mystery that would only deepen with time. Aristotle Dumas's approach would soon force Victor into a situation where he had to confront not only the threat posed by Dumas himself but also the unpredictable forces that might be orchestrating events from behind the scenes. In this high-stakes game of power and survival, Victor's resolve was both his armor and his weapon. As he prepared to face the challenges ahead, one thing was certain: the arrival of Aristotle Dumas would mark the beginning of a new, turbulent chapter in the saga of Genoa City. And while the secrets Paul had revealed cast a long, chilling shadow over the future, they also galvanized Victor to take decisive action. For in the world of Genoa City, knowledge was power. And with that power came the only hope of outmaneuvering a threat that could one day consume him. The questions lingered like a dark cloud over Victor's mind. What does Aristotle truly want? Can he be stopped before his plan reaches its climax? And most critically, who is the real enemy in this dangerous game? For now, these questions would remain unanswered, a mystery for the days ahead, as the dangerous dance between predator and prey continued in the ever-turbulent corridors of power. Return to chaos, the dilemma of duty and family. Victor stood at the edge of the ancient harbor of Genoa, his eyes scanning the horizon as dusk bled into night. The salty tang of the sea breeze mingled with the palpable tension in his heart. For as long as he could remember, Genoa had been more than just a city to him. It was a sanctuary of order, a bastion of peace that he had sworn to protect at all costs. Now, with an ominous shadow lurking over the city, Victor's deepest wish was for Paul to return and stand by his side. Paul, however, had chosen a different path. In a modest home on the outskirts of Genoa, far removed from the turmoil that once defined his every waking moment, he embraced a life filled with family warmth and personal serenity. His days were spent in the gentle rhythm of domestic bliss, where laughter echoed through sunlit rooms and every sunset brought the promise of another quiet day. In the eyes of his loved ones, Paul was a pillar of calm, a stark contrast to the violent and unpredictable world that Victor had been forced to confront. Yet the call of duty echoed relentlessly in Victor's mind. He remembered the days when their friendship was unbreakable, when their shared commitment to safeguarding Genoa created a bond that nothing could sever. It was during those turbulent times that Victor had seen in Paul not only a comrade but a kindred spirit. Together, they had fought back against chaos, repelling forces that threatened to tear apart the delicate fabric of their beloved city. Now, that bond was being tested once more. Victor's plea to Paul was not born of mere nostalgia but of necessity. "Genoa is in peril," Victor had argued passionately, his voice trembling with the weight of impending doom. "I need you. The city, our people, they need the strength we once had together. Return with me, and we shall restore peace to these troubled streets." But Paul's reply was as resolute as it was gentle. "My home is here, Victor," he had said with a mixture of sorrow and certainty. "I have built a life filled with love and stability. I promise, when the time is right and the heart feels joy once more, I will come back. Until then, I must remain here." The conversation had ended in an uneasy silence. Yet it was not long before Paul's words took on a darker tone, a series of warnings that made Victor's blood run cold. These were no ordinary warnings. They were laced with the gravity of a man who had seen the depths of danger and was now burdened with the foreknowledge of an impending threat. Paul had spoken of Aristotle Dumas, a shadowy figure whose very name struck fear into the hearts of those who dared to defy him. Dumas, with his uncanny ability to assume a new identity at will, could emerge at any moment, his face unfamiliar and his intentions cloaked in mystery. It was as if Dumas were a chameleon, his appearance ever changing to elude detection, making him an unpredictable enemy in the war against disorder. Victor's once unwavering confidence began to waver in the face of such uncertainty. The idea that an assassin or adversary might blend seamlessly into the crowd, striking when least expected, forced him to confront his deepest fears. The tranquility he had once associated with Genoa was now marred by a creeping dread, a sense of foreboding that whispered of calamity. In the quiet of his study, surrounded by maps and old manuscripts that chronicled Genoa's storied past, Victor realized that the stakes were higher than ever. Not only was the physical safety of the city at risk, but the very soul of Genoa was in jeopardy. As the tension mounted, Victor found himself torn between two irreconcilable worlds. On one hand was the passionate duty that had defined his life, a duty that demanded sacrifice, vigilance, and an unwavering commitment to protect the people he had sworn to serve. On the other hand lay the gentle, healing embrace of familial life that Paul now cherished. In his heart, Victor knew that Paul's reluctance was born out of love, a desire to shield his family from the chaos that had once consumed them both. It was this very love that made Paul's decision all the more painful for Victor, who believed that the threat of Aristotle Dumas could only be overcome by unity and a shared resolve. The situation had grown increasingly dire. Rumors of Dumas's machinations began to surface, whispers in the dark alleys of Genoa, unsettling and untraceable. Every time Victor heard a suspicious noise or caught a fleeting glimpse of a stranger's face in the crowded streets, he was reminded of Paul's forewarnings. The man he had once trusted as a silent guardian was now issuing threats that sent shivers down his spine. With every new piece of intelligence, Victor's determination hardened. He resolved to raise his guard to unprecedented levels, preparing for the moment when Dumas might make his move. His nights were now spent in restless vigilance, his mind constantly alert for any sign of the elusive enemy. Amidst this rising tide of chaos, a question loomed large in the hearts of many in Genoa: should Paul return to face the encroaching threat? There were those who believed that his return would fortify the city's defenses, a beacon of hope in a time of darkness. They argued that Paul's wisdom, tempered by years of peace and introspection, would bring a measured and strategic counter to the volatile aggression of Aristotle Dumas. His experience with life's simpler pleasures had only deepened his understanding of what was truly at stake, a balance between duty and compassion that was essential for lasting peace. Others, however, sympathized with Paul's desire to protect his newfound sanctuary. They saw in his retreat a conscious choice to prioritize the well-being of his family, a decision that resonated with the universal longing for safety and stability. In this light, Paul's hesitance was not a betrayal of duty but rather an affirmation of the human need for harmony and the courage to preserve it. The city's future, they argued, might very well depend on the ability to balance the forces of order and the gentle power of familial love. As night gave way to a new dawn, the citizens of Genoa were left to ponder the weight of this dilemma. The streets, once filled with the mundane bustle of everyday life, now carried an undercurrent of anticipation, a silent prayer for the return of a hero who embodied both the fierce commitment of a guardian and the tender heart of a family man. Meanwhile, Victor continued his solitary vigil, his mind adrift in memories of better days and fears of the impending storm. His resolve was clear: he would do everything in his power to protect Genoa, even if it meant facing the shadowy threat of Aristotle Dumas alone. In the end, the question remained as poignant as ever: would Paul choose duty over domestic bliss, returning to stand shoulder to shoulder with Victor against the encroaching chaos? Or would he continue to safeguard the delicate peace he had built at home, leaving Victor to confront the unpredictable menace alone? This tension between duty and desire, between the call of a war-torn past and the promise of a peaceful future, defined the very soul of Genoa. It was a struggle that echoed through its ancient streets, a reminder that even in times of tranquility, the specter of chaos never truly fades away. Ultimately, the fate of Genoa rested on the fragile balance between these two worlds. Victor's readiness to face danger and Paul's steadfast commitment to family formed a paradox that challenged the very nature of heroism. As the citizens of Genoa watched the horizon with bated breath, they could only hope that the day would come when the forces of darkness would be vanquished, and the unity of past and present would restore peace to their beloved city. In the midst of uncertainty, one thing was clear: the decision to call Paul back was not merely a tactical move but a testament to the enduring struggle between the obligations of the past and the serene promises of the future. This narrative explores the inner turmoil of both Victor and Paul, their intertwined destinies, and the looming threat of a mysterious enemy. It invites the reader to ponder whether returning to a life of duty might be the necessary sacrifice to preserve a greater peace, or if the gentle pull of domestic love should prevail above all else.